Imagine for a second that it's 1982. You're 10 years old, standing on a quiet suburban sidewalk. The sun is starting to dip, the street lights hum as they flicker to life, and that's your internal alarm clock. You walk into a house that's been empty for 4 hours, grab a sleeve of saltines, and figure out your own homework because your parents won't be home for another 2 hours. Fast forward to today, and that same Latchkey kid is now a parent, but they're being accused of something their own parents never were: being too involved. How did the most underparented generation in history become the stealth fighter parents of today? If you've ever felt the internal tug-of-war between wanting your kids to be independent and wanting to shield them from the loneliness you felt, you are part of a massive, silent cultural shift. Today, we're deconstructing the Gen X parenting paradox. We're going beyond the surface-level memes to explore how a childhood of figure-it-out-yourself created a brand new blueprint for raising resilient, emotionally intelligent humans in a world that feels increasingly unstable. To understand where Gen X parents are going, we have to look at the vacuum they came from. Between 1970 and 1990, the number of working mothers with young children jumped from 37% to nearly 60%. This wasn't just a stat. It was a revolution. For the first time, kids were the primary stakeholders in their own daily survival. Researchers have actually called Gen X one of the least nurtured generations in U.S. history. But here's the thing: that lack of nurturing didn't just disappear. It turned into a superpower called hyper-autonomy. But it also left a lingering shadow of emotional self-sufficiency that often felt a lot like being invisible. Now, as parents, Gen X is performing a massive course correction. But it's not the kind of helicopter parenting we see in the headlines. It's more surgical. They've been dubbed stealth fighter parents. If you're a Gen X parent, you know exactly what this means. You aren't hovering over the playground equipment, but the second a principal oversteps or a coach is unfair, you arrive with a level of intensity that shocks people. It's a direct response to the memory of having no one to call when the world was unfair to you at age 12. You're giving your kids the advocate you never had, while simultaneously trying to preserve the grit you gained from being alone. This creates a fascinating tension. You want your child to have the street smarts of a 1980s kid, but the emotional safety of a 2020s home. It's a delicate balancing act that maps almost perfectly onto what psychologists call authoritative parenting. This is the gold standard of developmental psychology. It's high warmth, meaning you're emotionally present and available, but it's also high demand, meaning you have clear boundaries and consequences. It's the middle ground between the do-as-I-say authoritarianism of the boomers and the do-whatever-you-want permissiveness that often leads to anxiety. The data shows that kids raised this way handle emotions better, have higher self-esteem, and actually perform better academically. But for Gen X, this isn't just a psychological theory they read in a book. It's a survival strategy. You've lived through recessions, watched the job for life myth evaporate, and seen the world change from analog to digital overnight. You know the system won't protect your kids, so you're trying to make them anti-fragile. You're teaching them that they can handle the struggle, but they don't have to handle it in silence. But let's talk about the cost of being the bridge generation. Gen X is currently the sandwich generation. You're caught in a vice grip between aging parents who think you're coddling your kids and Gen Z children who think your boundaries are too old school. You're translating between a world that valued privacy and a world where every lunch is a social media post. For a generation that grew up when your mistakes vanished the moment they happened, raising kids in the era of the permanent digital record is exhausting. It's why so many Gen X parents feel a unique kind of soul weariness. You're managing the analog past and the digital future simultaneously. There's also the unique relationship Gen X has with technology. You're the last generation to remember what boredom actually feels like. You remember the sound of a rotary phone and the silence of a house without a screen in every room. This gives you a perspective your kids don't have. When you tell your kids to put the phone away, it's not out of fear of the unknown. It's out of a deep, lived knowledge of the known that exists outside the screen. You understand the tools, but you're skeptical of the cost. This makes you the ultimate gatekeeper of presence in an era of distraction. What's truly remarkable is that Gen X isn't looking for a world's best parent trophy. Because you grew up with so little external validation, you've developed an internal compass. You're okay with your kid making the same mistake twice because you know that's how the lesson sticks. You're okay with them being uncomfortable because you know that's where the growth is. But you're also the parent who will be there at 2 a.m. when the world falls apart, offering a level of non-judgmental support that you might have only dreamed of as a teenager. This generational shift is a form of cycle breaking that often goes unnoticed. It's the quiet work of taking the best parts of a rugged, independent childhood, the resilience, the DIY spirit, the skepticism, and fusing them with the emotional availability that was missing. You are essentially building a new version of adulthood, one that doesn't equate strength with suffering alone. As we look at the landscape of modern parenting, it's clear that Gen X isn't just involved. They are intentional. They are the architects of a new kind of family dynamic that prizes authenticity over appearance. They don't fit into the neat categories of strict or soft because they've seen too much to believe in simple answers. They are the generation that was told to go play in traffic and responded by building a safer, warmer road for the next generation, without forgetting how to navigate the traffic themselves. If you're a Gen X parent, or if you were raised by one, you know that this balance isn't perfect. There are days when the stealth fighter flies too low, and days when the latchkey kid inside just wants to shut the door and be alone. But the fact that you're showing up, that you're asking these questions, and that you're trying to bridge these two wildly different worlds is a massive achievement. You are turning your own lack into your children's abundance. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Did you grow up as a latchkey kid, and how does that memory flash through your mind when you're dealing with your own children today? Do you find yourself being that stealth fighter parent? Let's keep this conversation going in the comments. And if this deep dive into the generational psyche resonated with you, I'd love for you to join our community here. We're constantly breaking down the hidden forces that shape our lives. If you want to support more of these deep dive analyses, you can hit the join button to become a channel member. It helps us keep the lights on. And unlike our childhoods, the lights stay on even after the sun goes down. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.